Hello. Right, so as you can see by the title of this video, we're going to be talking a little bit about why we've given the current status of Formula One and the motorsport ladder. Looking at Formula Two, Formula Three, Formula W Series, F1 Academy, and I just cannot see for the life of me, given our current situation, no matter how it's being dressed up by the seniorities in the FIA and maybe our media broadcasts. I just, for the life of me, can't see how we're going to get a woman in Formula One anytime soon. Not unless somebody of an absolute miracle comes along, and we're talking about a Max Verstappen level driver. We're talking down that level you know, of talent, or Lewis Hamilton when he came through in Formula Two as well. But anyway, but there's not just an isolated instance. It's like there's so many of them where you're just seeing drivers just not being given that opportunity, and we'll start off Jamie Chadwick, right? Jamie Chadwick is someone who I think she won the W Series twice before it then disbanded through financial difficulties. It couldn't get the sponsors, as far as I'm aware with that. I mean, I saw her actually win a W Series race in front of Abby Pulling, much younger Abby Pulling, back in 2022, right? And you saw the quality that these drivers had. You had like of Alice Powers there. I don't think Tina Houseford had quite got there yet, but you've got these drivers coming through, clearly talented, clearly know how to race wheel to win, right? So, what happens after the W Series? Jamie Chadwick, everyone's looking at her. She's clearly the best woman actually in the whole of the series. Where's her next step? Where's the next place on her career path, right? Answer is, well, nobody would sponsor her, to get the sponsoring, to get the funding for a Formula 3 seat, right? So then her career suddenly, as our progression, her dreams going towards Formula 1, abruptly stop, right? Whereas you're seeing a lot of other drivers coming through. You look at actually Formula 2 and Formula 3, I'll include Formula 2 in this as well. I don't think it's entirely controversial to say that Jamie Chadwick is better than a few of them, right? I think she could easily handle her own, definitely in F3. I mean, and the reason why I know this is that she ended up, of course, going across to the IndyCar during the series. She went to Indy next and became the first. I think she became the first woman in something like 15 years. Some people will probably fact check me on this, but the first woman in something like 15 years to actually win a race. She's going up against other guys in machinery that's, isn't, it isn't easy to drive. These cars are designed obviously to prepare you for IndyCar. So yeah, it was just incredibly frustrating. And then you look now, a couple of years later, the only way, James Chadwick is managing to, stay relevant is kind of an harsh word, but so that we continue to be aware of her and we don't just forget about her, right? Is being a pundit. And she's a quite brilliant pundit, when she's talking about like the skills of being wheel to wheel racing and incidents. She clearly knows what she's talking about. She's clearly got the skills, she's clearly got the experience, right? You know, I don't, I still don't understand for the life of me how somebody didn't see Jamie Chadwick and go, this is an incredible opportunity to get someone into F3 that could have the skill. It's not just on the fact of marketing opportunity, but there'll be so many people that would tune in, the sponsors coming in, but clearly, you need to have some big money in order to get into F3 and F2. I think people say you need millions of pounds to even just get a seat, which basically backs up the theory that the only way you're going to get into even the younger tiers of motor racing, yeah, the only way you're going to get into the younger series of motor racing is by having a heck of a lot of money. Or if you're Lance Stroll, dad buys an F1 team. Of course, that was before, and I'm being joking around, but I think the point still stands, I think, with that. And you look at what's going on. I just question that, and then you've got, now we've got F1 Academy, right, which has been running think it's in its third. I think it's in its third year, right? First year, I mean, this is the case in point of what F1 really, really cares about women's motor racing and that. Wasn't on TV in the UK. I think it was behind closed doors everywhere. You could only get highlights. And it's just like, what are we doing? Have we not learned? People want to watch this stuff. You need to be able to do it. The whole phrase of, if you see her, you can be her. Did you get the next generation of female drivers coming through, right? If we don't, I think it was complete uproar about that, and people were trying to find highlights. Were there just some random streams of these things going on? But certainly in the UK, there was nothing. Like for us, we had to deal with highlights or try to get a VPN or something, of course, to try and watch the racing. Of course, actually, I think Jamie Chadwick actually won that first year. Actually, that might be when, because I think Jamie Chadwick won the first year of that, combined in with the W Series that she's won. And so, of course, if you win W Series, you get, well, now, not back then, but now you get a fully funded seat in GP3, which is the next step up. I think it goes GP3 and then you go into F3, I think is how it works. But I'm going to be honest, I'm not entirely sure about those lower tiers, about how you get up into them. Do you go into GP3? Do you go into F4? It's all up in the air with that. With me, I can't exactly remember off the top of my head while I'm out here walking. Yeah, so obviously that happens. Then you've got latest driver. Obviously, latest drivers that have gone into GP3. So the last couple of years, we've had Abby Pulling and Bianca Bustamante. Right now, Bianca has struggled a bit. Right, there's no way doing about it. Absolutely, but it's great actually with her basis that she actually managed to get the funding to get actually to actually be able to race up and actually get the experience and race against the other guys and that sort of thing. So yeah, happy about that. Abby Pulling, however, doing very, very well. She actually managed to score a podium actually, a couple of months ago. She managed to do in one of the races, managed to get a podium. She's doing very, very well against her other two teammates. Yes, okay, she's not doing the best out of them, but she's not actually, disgracing herself with everything that's going on. You're new to the series. It'll be a new car. It'll be new power. It'll be, different style that you have to try and get used to. Next year it's going to be very, very interesting whether she's still going to get that seat, because obviously it won't be fully funded anymore. And if she can she improve? There isn't a big opportunity, obviously, with her. If she does improve, it's going to be very, very interesting to see then what happens. Personally, as you know, I just think, again, she's going to have the same problem as Jamie Chadwick did. She might not be able to get the sponsors. She might not just be able to get that chance in the seat because somebody else will come in with more money. And sadly, you just kind of see her going into, again, she'll be sort of racing on the circuit, maybe have to go into like Formula E or something. Of course, we are seeing her and Bianca, and I think a couple of others have done Formula E testing and seemingly have made good impressions. Are we going to see them in Formula E? That's a completely different debate. I think we're definitely going to see female drivers in Formula E before we're going to get anywhere near the top level of Formula One. Yeah, and it'll be very interesting with that because, of course, we've seen a lot of Formula One drivers go across to Formula E and see how they stack up against them. Pascal Wehrlein, Buemi, Di Grassi. I've just named three off the bat there. You've got De Vries, Van Dorn. Sure, there's a couple of others off the top of my head I probably missed, but that I see a bit more of a realistic route, I think, for Abby and for Bianca. I think they're both going to go down the Formula E route, which would be fantastic, especially for Formula E in terms of a marketing opportunity. You've got obviously then seeing how they go and stack up against each other. But of course, if they start doing well, it's really going to pull more people in, and it might, me being optimistic here, it might bring the FIA looking at it going, well, if this is what getting females into the higher levels of motorsport is going to do, you see the responses that people give to the likes of, just going slightly off for a moment, but you look at in the punditry, how much love there is for the likes of Natalie Pinkham, Naomi Schiff, Bernie Collins. Those three are absolutely adored And now Jamie Chadwick's coming into it, and actually people are absolutely adoring her as well as a punditry, and that kind of thing. You could see definitely like the knowledge, the skill. It's all there. Like, and again, you know, it's showing that you don't just need to be a man in the sport. Like, women can do it. It's just irritating when you see actually, and it's like, well, why can't women race? And people will go, oh, women drivers, all that kind of stuff. And actually, one of the quotes they make, which is a rather stupid point actually, which keeps on getting circulated with women drivers, is there was an incident at Spa in Formula Academy a couple of years ago, and 6 of them went off at Eau Rouge. But what people don't realise is that Eau Rouge had just been hit by a bit of a rainstorm. They were on dry tyres, and they all basically did what the likes of Lando Norris has done in the past. I think Lando Norris might have even done it. It might have been the following year or the year before, a couple of years before. I think he did it 2021, so this would have been a couple of years before. But Lando Norris does it, and everyone goes, "Oh, horrible," that kind of thing. Females do it, although less amount of rain. Absolutely granted, less amount of rain. But they judge them just so differently. And like, if you look at the crash itself, it's really serious. We could have really had quite a nightmarish scenario there. I mean, the Halo really did do its job that day, all of them, in terms of the Halos. I think 6 cars all crashing into each other up, 100 miles an hour. Yeah, you're going to need as much protection as possible with that. But anyway, yeah. So F1 Academy. The thing is with F1 Academy is I just get the impression with it is it's sort of the hierarchy of motorsport and that kind of thing. When they put this thing together, going to women, yeah, you can race with us, but over there, you could join us occasionally. You can come along, like every now and again, to our race weekends and that kind of thing. But you're not going to be part of the main thing when everything else is all going on. Yeah, I just look at it and go, well, from the moment it came along, us not being able to see it in that first year. You could race, but not with us. And now it's like it's a female only series that sits there. And I think since they've done the F1 style intro with it, I think with the drivers and introducing them to their personalities, maybe there's something more in terms of traction there. But I still just think the fact that it exists shows there is a problem. Because if it exists, it means we're not getting the opportunities for women to be able to do racing in these series. Now, I think a criticism that some people would say is, oh, the female races, if they're good enough, then they'll get there. But again, you need to give them that. I mean, we talk about it actually. We go back to the McLaren thing. Talk about fairness, right? And you look now, and this is where the true essence lies right now, in terms of my opinion about why we're not seeing women in Formula One. Right? It's Formula 3 and it's Formula 2. Now, these two series are lauded for great racing, close racing, teaching the drivers how to race, really absolutely nittling out, especially with Formula 2. You really can nittle out who the really good drivers are and who aren't, which actually, that's what it's supposed to do. Get you the skills and then the cream rises to the top. You look at Leclerc, Piastri, Norris, Russell, I was going to say Verstappen, and of course he skipped F2 because he was that good, but he was a bit of a freak of nature when he came through. Again, Verstappen, that was before the F2 era, of course, that was GP3 and GP2 and all that kind of stuff. But, you look at Alex Albon, again, came through. There was that trio, of course, of Russell, Albon and Norris, all came through, all together, all still on the grid, showing, they all had that great ability to be able to race each other, especially with Charles Leclerc as well. That battle with Alex in F2, at Abu Dhabi, it's always one that people talk about. But the problem with the cars is they're not really built. They're built so, they're for cost saving and simplicity. And there is one thing that these cars don't have that F1 do, and that's power steering. Now, F1 cars do have power steering, and that is a massive, massive difference when it comes to the amount of arm muscle that you're going to need to turn the car. So when Lando Norris got into Formula One, this was a Formula One car in 2019. These were some of the fastest cars, getting towards the fastest cars that we'd ever seen. And the McLaren wasn't horrendously slow that year. We're not talking about a slow Formula One car, if you can call a Formula One car slow ever. He actually said in an interview that yes, overall the car was harder to drive because obviously it's faster, putting more G-force. But in terms of actually his arm strength, it's actually easier for him. He didn't find it as difficult. He said that F2 you actually needed more. How could it be that you need more strength for a Formula 2 car than it should be the other way around? It should just be a steady progression up, up and up. You shouldn't get to Formula 1 and then go, well, this is easier to turn. So, and if you make the cars too hard to drive and you can't, turn the wheel, because as we know, women biologically different to men in terms of muscle strength, all that kind of stuff. If they don't have, if you don't have a car that's actually suited to getting you to Formula One, you're never going to get there in the first place. I just look at it and go, how do we get into a situation, right, where a woman can go into F3 and actually have a chance to go up against the guy? And I just think, they say it's a cost-saving thing. F1 is not like a, the amount like they charge for tickets, the amount for hospitality, VIP, paddock passes, all that kind of stuff. F1 is a glamorous sport. It's got so much money in it, and yet we can't build a car that actually can have power steering on it like a Formula One car in the Junior Series. We just go, maybe that'll do. The car's brilliant. Clearly, the car is good, right? Because you look at what it's producing in terms of the quality of the racing, it's fantastic. The races are absolutely bonkers every single week. You go, I think this year in particular, the one thing that there has been a bit of a criticised for is the post-race penalties, but F2 and F3 have been absolutely incredible, and you've seen now in F3 this new bloke Kamara come through out of absolutely nowhere, and now everyone's going, right, what are you going to do in F2? You've won F3 just like that. Could you imagine if Abby Pulling came into F3 and just dominated? She came in and did what Kamara has done. She's only going to be able to do that, I think, with a car that's not got. Well, I just think the cars at the moment are limiting female drivers from progressing upwards. You're looking at the drivers coming through, and you're looking at F3 drivers and F2 drivers. Basically, they're all moneyballing. I mean, you look at, take for example, Formula 2 driver that was for years around. He was never going to make it to Formula 1, right? Nissani, right? Accident prone. He was, occasionally he'd get a podium or something. And I'm not saying he's not a bad driver, but in all honesty, he was never going to do anything in Formula 2 once he was sort of there a couple of years. And you're looking at it going, would a woman do that much worse than him? In my opinion, no, I don't think so. And you just see it, and it's just, I could be repeating myself here, but it's just kind of frustrating that we're being painted with a look at what we're doing for women's sports, And actually, in terms of the fans and what their engagement with the fans are, you've got social media pages like Girls Across the Grid, you've got other bits and pieces, you've got, lots of podcasts now with females on them, lots of female journalists that are breaking through. You take, for example, you take Formula E, you've got people like Alexa Randall, who's now presenting in her there, and obviously in WEC, you've got Katie Fairman there as well. You've got obviously in Formula One, you've got Natalie Pinkham, you've got Bernie Collins, Naomi Shear. Every now and again you get Danica Patrick. Whatever you think about her, she's still there. She's still someone that, provides an opinion, is someone you can see, she's there, okay? Which is obviously a good thing, and people critique her, and, just like, male pundits as well. I think sometimes she doesn't always help herself with a comment, and then every now and again you just look at Jensen and or Nico Rosberg. It's normally one of those two they've got on with her at that point in time, and you're thinking, yeah, you're not quite of the level of some of the other female ones. I mean, there's another female one that's just come into my head. I grew up on BBC, So of course you got Jenny Gower, who's come back from having a stroke, right? And she's come back and she's absolutely phenomenal. The passion she has. She's came up the ranks. She used to read the news out on Sky Sports. So she's come through the ranks, and you can just clearly see the knowledge is there, the quality is there, the passion is there. But we just seem to can't, we can't get over the line with getting a woman able to racing in Formula 2 and Formula 1. We shouldn't be in a position where women can't race in Formula 1. How are we allowing it to happen? It's 2025. I mean, if we're talking about 1960s or 1970s, maybe we've got a bit more of a point. Maybe there's a bit more of a, okay, cultures, all that kind of stuff going through, right? But we're not there. We're in 2025. We're giving opportunities for everyone. We're in a world where it's supposed to be acceptance for all that kind of stuff. Why can't we build cars that we can get this right with? We've got the 2026 rules coming in. Are they going to be suited that if a female comes up, are they able to drive as well? I'm not talking about them being easy to drive. I'm talking about them having, being able to let women extract the most from a car. In terms of like traction, aero, all that kind of stuff, battling wheel to wheel, that kind of stuff. You want to let the driver be able to express what they can do. You look at F2 drivers; they all come into F1, and you're going, well, what can you do? And some of them succeed, some of them don't. But again, will Abby Pulling get there? I just doubt it. I just can't see it happening. Will Bianca get there? I have no idea. I mean, if you look at the quality of the racers, right, which I think some people now will be criticising about the quality of the racers, right? I mean, what are these quality of the racers? I mean, if you haven't seen the last lap battle in Singapore, last time out, Singapore Race 2, 2025, battling for the championship, 1 lap shootout. I mean, if you're talking about vibes of 2021, Abu Dhabi, this was definitely it. You've got Dorian Pan and Meyerberg both being backed by, F1 teams. You've got Dorian Pan in the Mercedes, Meyerberg in the Ferrari, the livery car. They're all in the same machinery, which kind of helps actually, because it makes it a lot easier. Makes it a lot easier if you're all in the same car. You can work out who's going to be who's quick. But obviously they were on dry tyres, and it had pretty much soaked the track, right? So we had a pretty damp track, going down on the first part of the lap. There was proper spray coming off these cars. You've got 2 people fighting for the world championship of this, becoming the champion. There's a fully funded GB3 seat on the line, right? Which is huge, right, for both of these drivers' careers, right? In terms of like the next path, I mean, Dorian Pan was clearly second best driver last year when Abby Pulling ran away with it. So Abby Pulling obviously ran away with it last year. You've got Dorian Pan coming back again, trying to do it. She's obviously ahead in the championship at the moment. Meyerberg behind her. Meyerberg trying, basically has to overtake her to basically keep the championship alive. Sorry, 1 second. Car coming by. So there you go. This is the impact things when you're wandering about like this. You need to be keeping a bit about you. That's why I've been walking around the field. But anyway, back to the casing point, right? You've got these 2 in the wet, dry tyres, fighting for a world championship, and as they're going out of turn 5, Meyerberg gets the run, and they are side by side in the wet down towards turn 7. Basically, the only place, at that point, that point in the circuit, realistically, that you were going to be able to overtake. Meyerberg manages somehow to get it on the inside and just dives it down the inside in it could honestly be the overtake of the year if you're looking at all of them in terms of comparison, in terms of the vitalness of the overtake for the championship. We've got 1 race weekend for them left, which is Las Vegas. Really looking forward to that. So you've got that. You've got her against her championship rival. They're in the wet, they're on dry tyres. They're obviously in cars that don't have anywhere near the downforce level of obviously a Formula 1 car. And they've just come off the safety car as well. They've just come off a safety car pit. So the tyres are not going to be in tip-top condition. And somehow They went side by side. They went absolutely flying, and it ended up with them going side by side in Meierberg. Both of them hit, making the corner. Absolutely, absolutely incredible overtake. Ending up winning the race. So for me, the quality is definitely there. And these are two new drivers, and obviously I mentioned two others that did very, very well last year, right? Two very, very good drivers who did very well last year. Meierberg, you've got, obviously, there's the McLaren driver. I forget her name right now. She's Irish. And you've got, anyway. Oh, what's her name? Oh, that's rather embarrassing. I've forgotten her name. Me talking about ranting about women is the F1. I can't remember the McLaren back driver. You've obviously got Williams with Leah Block, who won race one. Unbelievable driver again. I mean, you've got to say that she'll know a bit about driving, given the fact that her dad was Ken Block. I mean, possibly one of the greatest drifters we've probably ever seen. I mean, having cars and just playing around in them at airports and stuff. But this is my point. Again, these drivers have the talent. It's clearly there. The skill is clearly there, right? And they clearly care. We saw the emotion of Meierberg when she won in the Netherlands. Absolutely, wanting it, wanting to win at home in front of other fans. The fans turning out. The fans want it. The fans are following it. That's the other thing. The fans are following this and making it a thing. They want to show that women belong on the track as well. We're all watching the racing. We're all talking about it. We're all, going, oh, what is going on with them? So, yeah, I think, all in all, I just can't see though in any kind of context these guys making it to Formula One, which is kind of sad really, because you look at some of the guys in, going through Formula 3 and Formula 2, and I do look every time. It's like, are you that much better? Are you better than these young girls coming through? I just don't. I mean, to be honest with you, the reason why I'm actually losing myself a little bit here is I still can't remember that McLaren driver's name, which is really annoying me. So I'm gonna have to go back after this video and just look up and see who she is. Oh, is it? It's Ella Lloyd, isn't it? It's Ella Lloyd, first year. Unbelievable. She's been so consistent. I mean, looking forward to her next year. See how she does there. Whether McLaren keep her on or whether they choose someone differently. I think they have to have someone. They have to back someone. So whether it's her again or whether it's somebody else, it's going to be interesting to see what they do. But again, I'm just in the same ballpark. Is she going to get that opportunity to get into F3? Are these teams going to take a punt on a female driver when they can get, a heavily backed, a young bloke who's, got a bit of, father's business behind him, or, just some kind of backing from an international sponsor? We've seen it on a couple of occasions. I mean, you look at Nikita Mazepin. He literally came through, and the only reason he made it was because of his dad having this, like, Uralkali business or whatever it was called. That's the only reason he made it. And would you say that Nikita Mazepin is better than the female drivers? Yeah. I mean, you look at it and you just go, what is going on? And the problem is it is down to money. Are they going to get the sponsoring? Are they going to get the money behind them and backing them to be able to do well? I just can't see it. And I'd like to be wrong. It's really, irritating, and I think there's a lot of fans out there, a lot of female fans out there who would love to see a female go up through the grid. I think there's actually a lot of male fans who would be going up and wanting a female to do very, very well and get up into Formula One. You look at the female pundits, I'm sure they'd be over the moon at seeing a female come through, come through the ranks of F3 and F2 and get to F1. But without the backing of somebody taking, pumping money into backing them, and I'll be absolutely honest, the F3 and F2 cars getting things like power steering on them and being more like an F1 car in terms of to drive, I just don't see it. But anyway, I'm going to leave it there. Much love to you all. and we'll have to see what happens with that F1 Academy and that championship when we get to Las Vegas and see which one out of my Andorian plan is going to get that fully funded GB3 seat. In my opinion, I do think it'll be Dorian who will just manage to stave it off, but again, if it all changes after race 1, I might have to rethink it. But at this moment in time, you have to go with the championship leader. She's just been so consistent. She's had maybe a couple of races here and there, but overall, she's always there or thereabouts. So yeah, yeah. And in Las Vegas, it's obviously a track that you can have a take on. So if you do mess up quali, she'll be able to. Well, in my opinion, I think she'll be more than capable of coming through the field a couple of times. But anyway, I'll have to see on that one, and I'll do a bit of a review when we come to Las Vegas on what I think of the races, because I will definitely, like a lot of other people, be watching. Yeah, take care and have a good one.